I'm going to call this Tipp City Exempted Village Schools Board of Education meeting to order. We'll start with we don't have any guests today for the pledge, correct? All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stevens, attendance, please.
Mr. Patry?
Here.
Mr. Maines?
Here.
Mrs. Drum?
Here.
Mrs. Dunaway is absent, and Mrs. Zakor appears to be absent, but we still have a quorum. We can proceed.
We can start with a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
And I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Drum, second by Mr. Maines. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Mr. Stevens, if you can call the vote, please.
Mr. Patry?
Yes.
Mr. Maines?
Yes.
Mrs. Drums?
Yes.
Mrs. Drum, sorry, I didn't mean to add an S to the end of
You're
that.
totally fine. It's very common.
Motion passes. The agenda is approved. I'm refreshing my board docs. Give me 1 second. All right. First item is committee reports. Miami Valley CTC meeting minutes. Mr. Maines.
All right, we had our meeting on August 8th, and it was pretty much the normal standard meeting where we had a couple changes in salary, classifications. We had a couple resignations. We added some new staff. I think the main thing was we got a report from Dr. Weldy, and as he states, he said, an amazing 1,916 students were expected to start this past Tuesday and Wednesday, both Tuesday and Wednesday, August 16th. It's one of the largest groups of students they've ever had. Another thing was that they, in partnership with Wayne Schools in Huber Heights, they opened their new CTC facility over there. And one of the big areas that they have is welding. But the other one, which I thought was really interesting, was aviation. So it's kind of neat. So I might go over there and learn to fly a plane. I don't know. So,
Very cool.
in May 2024, CTC will be flying, as he puts it, flying south to the land of the UD Flyers. The district has officially signed a contract to move our annual senior recognition ceremony to the University of Dayton Arena. So with that, they'll also be able to return to holding their ceremony on Friday nights. And then finally, summer construction's progressed with very few issues and quite a few major accomplishments. He was pleased to report that one of the pleasant surprises was that the areas impacted by the flood were completed early, and we were able to move staff members back in last week. So everything's going well there. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Maines. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, next item is 3A, citizens' comments. And can I get the sheet, Mr. Moran? Thank you. First person is Jackson Smith.
Go up to that podium. Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Hello, my name is Jackson Smith. I live at 1864 Curry Branch Drive, Tipp City, Ohio, and I am a senior captain on this year's football team. I would like to talk about the plaque that was previously placed at the stadium next to Carson's Rock, right in front of Maddox. And recently we have been informed that we cannot have the plaque there. The seniors donated this rock because we wanted to find a way to honor our friend and our teammate, Carson Robbins, who we all know tragically passed last year. We donated the rock, the plaque, and the concrete because we thought it to be the best way to honor him. Carson loved Tipp City and he loved Tippecanoe athletics. He was cheering loud and proud at every sporting event that we were allowed to go to. And we know that this is a great way to honor him. It will also help us in our grieving process with his death, because for some of us, his death does not seem real. I know I struggle to sometimes believe that he really is gone. And this memorial helps us see, it helps us accept the fact that our friend is gone. But it symbolizes our unwillingness to forget him and to help us honor someone we love. All the money that went into this project came from the pockets of the senior class and our families. None of it came from athletics or school funding. It all came from our pockets. We even had the previous administration approved us to go on with this project in the past. In the end, we just want to make sure we're doing the right thing here. And after Meet the Teams, all the seniors got a text from Carrie Robbins, Carson's mother. And I would like to read it today because it's one of the biggest reasons that I'm fighting to keep this thing here. To the class of 2024, sending this thank you seems an insufficient way to fully express our feelings to you and your continued support of Carson. One of my biggest fears was his light and spirit being forgotten. Your families and your boys/girls have made sure that it can never happen again. The Spirit Rock is one of the most thoughtful gifts we have in his memory, and likely the one he loves the most. You found a way to honor him that speaks to his love of Tipp City and his school spirit. The flag that was carried at tonight's game took my breath away. It was a surprise that I wasn't expecting. Some know and some may not know, but Jamie and I argued about sending Carson to kindergarten way back in 2010. I wanted to hold him because all his friends are doing another year of preschool. Carson has that sneaky spring B-day to send or not to send. Anyway, we obviously sent him, and he became a member of the class of 2023, which was a perfect fit, and he made amazing friends. However, a part of him was always with your class of 2024 boys as well. He spent as much time hanging with your boys as he did with his own class. He loved his friends. He would be proud of them tonight. I'm also sure he would have a few words to say that us parents may or may not want to hear. Please know this, we are so incredibly grateful that you all love our boy and that you continue to remind people of who he is. All our love, the Robbins. Please help us remember our friend and honor him at the stadium by letting us keep our rock there and the plaque. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next person is Crystal Jones.
Hello, I'm Crystal Jones, Xavier Jones's mother. I'm just here to ask the district, how many times is my son gonna be discriminated? I know you and I have spoke on great lengths. I was at my daughter's soccer game this weekend and was made aware that there is a student who is quote-unquote ineligible, just like Xavier. But he's in uniform, he's practicing, and Xavier should be on the field. There's no reason he should not. He has led this team since 3rd grade. He loves these kids. He loved Carson. The hurt that is being done to my son is done because I have filed an Ohio civil rights lawsuit and the NAACP I'm meeting with this week. I don't know when you guys are gonna quit discriminating, and I did get the email from Ms. Dunaway that I'm sure all of you got as well as HR that states discrimination has been going on here way too long, correct? Yes? Just because he's black, he didn't have a choice for that, and he's getting treated different because the student that I'm talking about in soccer, he's white. He's been practicing since day one, and the mom told me she didn't even have to pay the soccer fees. Do you think this is okay? Do you think I'm stopping? I'm not. This is not okay. And these boys over here know it. So, I'm just letting you know. It's not over.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones.
Also, the last thing Xavier wants is
Sir,
for that stone.
One
to come
second,
down.
sir, are you Bryant Jones?
Yes, I am Brian Jones. I'm the stepfather.
Alright.
He loved Carson. He wrestled with Carson since he was a little boy. The last thing he wants is for that memorial to come down. But also, he doesn't want to have to keep getting discriminated against either. It's well within your policy, with him being on an IEP, to be on the field with his team, senior class. He should be right here with these boys. You can break the rules for one kid, but you can't even follow the rules for another kid. So, it's a bit confusing. And we're done with it. You'll be hearing from us again.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next person is Larry Jordan.
Larry Jordan, 405 Bowman Avenue. I'd like to reserve my comments until after I hear the financial report. Is that okay for the board?
Sure. There is a second part of citizen comments that comes after item 9, and that'll be after the presentation of the financial reports.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. There are no other citizens signed up. Is there any other citizen that wishes to be heard? All right. Next item is 4A, monthly financial report. Mr. Stevens.
Where did it go? Oh, I apologize. Well, you'll have to forgive me. This was not the financial report I was hoping to upload for you. I was supposed to be doing a PDF. However, this does include the cash reconciliation for July of 2023. We currently have all of our accounts tracked. We are ending with a total book balance of $19,884,000 at this time. There is a larger increase from July for June, there's a larger increase from the month of June because of our tax receipts. We did receive a large amount of tax advances from the county auditor's office, which occurs twice a year. And so that boosted our cash balance. The other page, it would be the investment column. This just shows the amount of investment revenue that we received for the month of July. That revenue was $55,000. This is due to the higher interest rate that we're currently collecting from Star Ohio. At this time 2 years ago, Star Ohio was 0.1%, and we've seen it now. It's over 5%, which is why we're able to realize such larger dollar amounts. But that's also because of the state of the economy. With a better economy, you have better interest rates. With a worse economy, you have no interest rates. So just for the month of July, we received $55,000. The other item that I would have included would have been the cash summary report, showing all of the funds that are currently available for the funds in the district, with the general fund and the 016 emergency levy fund, combined with a total of $14,500,000. There are some negative fund balances at this time, but those are mostly for federal grant funds, which usually run into the negative as we wait for federal grant reimbursements from the Ohio Department of Education. The other fund to tell you about that's in the negative is our employee benefits self-insurance fund. This is Fund 24. I am aware of the district's recent issues with the self-insurance fund and know that we have had some issues with that and are currently working on switching back to the EPC to be insured through that plan rather than the self-insurance fund. We're waiting on some stop loss reimbursements for claims that were over a particular, I think it's $150,000, but don't quote me on that. But we're waiting for some claims that have gone over that dollar amount to be reimbursed for those expenses. We're hoping that by the time that all the claims are accounted for, that we'll have a wash and we won't require any additional funds from the general fund to cover those negative balances. However, if they are not washed away, then the district will have to cover those with general fund expenses. So that's all I have at the moment. Are there any questions from board members on the information provided?
Right now, that Fund 24 is $74,247.46.
That is correct. And I apologize again for this being the wrong document, but those are the 3 pages we would have been going over.
Anybody else have any questions or thoughts?
You know, I just would remark that I thought all those statements that you gave us are awesome. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of information that you put together for us that we've never seen before.
Well, I've been carrying this. This is a spreadsheet that was created years ago when I was here previously, and the treasurer, former treasurer, Mrs. Fox, she did carry those on and has been updating them. There are some tweaks that need to be done to them, but it is a good spreadsheet, and if it's filled out, it can provide information. So I have a new one that I've learned about from Milton Union, and I'll be incorporating that one as well. That can really help you drill down on what's been spent. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. It was great.
Are we going to see the same format that we used to have?
I can provide you any format that you want. If the reports that you had from Mrs. Fox are what you're interested in, I can continue those. If there's something more or less that you don't care to see because it didn't provide you any information, I can take those out. So
I like the format that you had
okay.
the last time you looked before.
Okay.
And adding more information for me is better.
Okay.
I thought.
Yeah.
Not that I mean, I can certainly go through spreadsheets, but.
I apologize.
No, I'm not. Don't apologize. I'm saying I was just curious as we're gonna have what the format's gonna be.
Yeah, I can put it back together what I had before, and I will take a look at what you are receiving now. Maybe I can provide something that might provide you the additional information, maybe a little cleaner. And
I don't want to speak for the board, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, like, from my perspective, you show us what you think makes sense, and then
okay.
we can go from there.
We'll tweak it here until we find something that works.
Obviously, anybody else jump
Yeah,
in here.
I was gonna say the same thing. I like seeing this because it's like broken down. Well, you know what I mean, I can see all of it, like the big picture.
Mhm.
Cause I've never seen the big picture in 2 years, so that was really cool. But I like how that you explained it though quick. Like I like things to be nice and neat, so.
Okay.
I would be curious as to what your PDF actually looked like versus all of this. Does that make sense too?
Yes.
Cause it may be perfect.
Probably is.
It probably is.
It will provide information on variances between year to year. So.
Okay.
And unless what happened from the previous 2 years compared to this year, it's just a comparison of a spot in time from this year to the previous year to the year before that over the last 3 years. And maybe what happened 2 years ago doesn't matter at all anymore and doesn't really need to be talked about. So I can continue to do a 3-year comparison, or we can focus more on just what's happening now. So, but I'll put something together for next month, and we'll see how that goes.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Next item is 5, public records request update. Mr. Stevens?
Okay. So we are still receiving public records requests. There is a dollar amount that's been updated. We had about 8 hours of public records requests worked on during the month of July, mostly in technology for pulling down emails. but we also did have $90 charged to us by an attorney for some fees on that. Bringing the grand total for public records request for this calendar year to $11,909.98. We currently have 3 public records outstanding, one of which currently has 13,000 emails that need to be submitted to the attorney for review and redaction. The second request we have that's still outstanding also has a large number of emails that we are getting ready to send to the attorney for review. And the third request is we're still working with the attorney on how to proceed. So, yep,
Are we still updating that Google Doc sheet?
yes, we are.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Next item is an executive session. Recommended actions to adjourn executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166, Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1 and G5. To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing by Division G1 of Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Potential invitees include but are not limited to Mr. Moran, Mrs. Hagan, and the Board of Education's attorneys. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mrs. Drum, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Maines. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Stevens, please call the vote.
Mr. Patry,
Yes.
Mr. Maines,
Yes.
Mrs. Drum.
Yes.
Motion passes. We will now adjourn to executive session. The time is 6:22 p.m. I'd like to thank you guys all, in case you're not here, for coming out and presenting today.
Stick around.
We are great, I'm gonna try to organize, and we just found out that you're looking for a eight building. All of Westminster works that are required for 25 years, we just couldn't have a free all of them. Okay, your architect. We don't have to go out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's it?
I didn't, I already said it was in the works forever.
It just hit the news.
Before June, when they came in.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I didn't know.
When we come back, we may have now who's been
Okay,
invited
there's
to
no one.
executive session.
There's
As you noted, going in.
It's,
Oh, you did?
yeah.
Sagan, Moran, and Board of Education attorneys, whatever's on the agenda.
Gotcha, I totally missed it.
Yeah, we've had those crazy meetings and stuff like that.
Okay,
What your football team.
thank you.
And.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Rick, you ready? He's retired.
Hello, how are you?
Okay, it's all coming through the mic, there's nothing going through Logic Group. Okay, all right, thank you.
Were we good about it?
We have missed the last few items. They did not go out.
So from returning,
From returning back to executive session, that is correct. So the Logic Group speaker was not picking up.
all right,
So we
So
can go
then-
back and,
well, I mean, there's still, let's just do them again,
okay,
just to be safe.
Yeah.
So we had an issue with our speaker that hasn't been picked up, just so that nobody misses anything, we're gonna redo it. For those in the audience, forget us. Have fun watching paint dry, guys. We returned from executive session
6:59.
at 6:59 PM. We just were made aware of the audible issue at 7:05. We're gonna return to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? The consent agenda was approved. It was made by Mr. Maines and seconded by Mrs. Drum. There was no discussion on that item. The motion passed 3-0. The next item was the retirement, 8A. That motion was made by Mr. Maines and seconded by Mrs. Drum. There was no discussion other than thanking Mr. Martin for his 23 years of service. The next item was a Tipp Educational Endowment donation. That motion was made by Mrs. Drum and seconded by Mr. Maines, and that passed 3-0. It was a motion to approve and accept a second donation of $4,000 to pay for district-wide speaker, which is Dr. Phil Campbell. He will be on district at the district on September 22nd. Next item after that was 8C, which was the Tipp City Fire EMS Department donation. The motion was made to approve to accept the donation of the Tipp City Fire EMS Department, which was to stop the bleed kits to be mounted next to the 80s in the schools. Tipp City's Fire EMS Department received a grant to purchase the items, and there would be no charge to the district. I believe every board member thanked the Tipp City Fire Department EMS for doing it. The motion passed 3-0, and now everyone is caught up. Next item is AD. Montgomery County Educational Service Center service contract for fiscal year 2024. Recommend action is motion to approve the service contract for fiscal year 2024 with the Montgomery County ESC. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mrs. Drum.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Maines. Mrs. Drum, any discussion?
So this is the contract that we've had before that I just wanna make sure that lawyers looked it over and it's updated and we're good to go.
This is for autism.
Okay,
This is autism related, if needed,
okay,
so to speak. So we could have a contract to review needs of students that may be autistic, low incidence, coaching team come in to help us if needed. There's no, this isn't a mandated piece, it's just
Okay.
they're there if we need it.
awesome, thank you.
Mr. Maines, any discussion?
No.
Mr. Stevens, please call the vote.
Mrs. Drum?
Yes.
Mr. Maines?
Yes.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes, motion passes. Next item is Premier Health Extension Contract. Recommend action is motion to approve the Premier Health sponsorship, marketing rights, and service agreement extension. This is the third amendment to the sponsorship agreement with the Tipp City Schools. Is there a motion?
I'll motion that we approve.
Motion by Mr. Maines. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Drum. Mr. Maines, any discussion?
You mentioned that this is the third year for us,
The third amendment to the agreement.
third amendment to this agreement. Okay. All right,
I believe it was originally done in 2008.
okay, all right,
August 28, 2008 is the original.
gotcha.
Anything else, Mr. Maines?
No,
Anything, Mrs. Drum?
No, just thank you for continuing the contract.
Also like to thank Premier Health for doing it, it's very generous. Mr. Stevens, please call the vote.
Mr. Maines,
Yes.
Mrs. Drum,
Yes.
Mr. Patry.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item is 9A, under items for discussion. The USSC Master Plan. Mr. Moran, would you like to lead the discussion?
Yes, so, as you know, we need to, make an approval to OFCC to tell them what exactly we're looking for so we can get in the process of them getting us our, information, being in queue for funding and for what they'll provide for us. As we talked, a lot of this information is on the website, but they need to know exactly, and we've started out with their preferred plan of a a PK6, and then shoving seventh and eighth graders into the high school. As we looked at that, you know, based on square footage, they say it can be done, but we think there's a whole lot of issues, potential issues with that. So that's where the PK8s come up. We've had, I don't know how many, 10 plus, 15 meetings plus, can't remember all the meetings we've had. But, to get input, but that really, we think a PK8 building is the right thing for the district that provides us efficiencies and student needs, as well as financially, it makes more sense to do a K8 versus having to add another wing to the high school, which would again, as a academically and I think from the feedback from the community is what they're asking for as well. Plus gym space and all that stuff that would have to be added. Again, 50% more kids to the cafeteria. Well, how's that gonna work? 50% more kids in the hallways, 50% more kids into the media center. I think there's just more problems putting 7 through 12 over there. So we're gonna need that done, and I'll have a motion on it, but I just wanted to make sure that the board's clear on that we do need I want a motion from the board on September 5th so we can get it in the queue for the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. It'll be just as simple that we're looking at a PK8. We're not talking about square footage, we're not talking about how many gyms we're gonna have, locations of anything. It's strictly about the building size, that configuration that we're looking for. And that's the PK8 912. That they would hopefully help support, co-fund, and at the end of this month, I'm supposed to have an updated percentage that we would be eligible for when our CFAP program, because again, we're talking about a local, expedited local partnership program, the ELP. And we might have more information when OFCC gets through their process in November, where we stand, like, is it a year from now we would go into the CFAP, or is it the, maybe 2 years, but it's not more than 2 years, but we did the building tours. We need those buildings ASAP. There's obviously a lot of things I learned about, and Kim Hagan did a wonderful job during the tour, but, you know, you see pipes going across there, and you think, oh, it's probably just a water pipe kind of whatever. No, it's actually pipe, steel pipes that are holding the building together from collapsing, because they were falling apart for a while ago. So we got those things happening. We had issues with the freezer this past week. All the other issues that we're dealing with there that aren't ideal learning conditions for students, much less for staff and community to utilize. So it's time to, in my opinion, we need to move forward with those things. What I gave you right now is some information on LEED, just for your information. Again, LEED is a kind of an efficiency piece. So again, so we can maintain the buildings, we can utilize the resources and be as efficient as possible. And there's a lot of stuff on there that we're recommending a LEED silver. So there's so many points, percentages to get up to there. So that is part of the building project. There is LEED dollars to make sure we are being efficient, again, for the long term, not a short term piece with that. And I think that's good information to make sure you're aware that we'll be doing these things for efficiencies as the building gets, designed and filled in.
Any discussion or questions for Mr. Mayor? I think the PK through 8 solution makes sense based on what I've seen and heard, including from the facilities committee. Obviously, our buildings are in terrible shape, with the exception of the high school and LT Ball. All of them are being recommended for removal and demolition. So, right now, we're gonna get a pretty decent chunk of change from the OFCC to help us build that, which will save us some money. And we built the buildings, if that bond or levy had passed 5 years ago or so, it would have cost half of the amount that it's now costing. Even if we could wait to see if money could come down, it's not gonna come down, it's gonna get worse, and the reality is it needs to happen now. Because it's no longer a safe place for our students or our staff. So I fully support a PK through 8 solution as part of the total master plan. Anyone else?
I would agree with everything you said. It needs to happen now. And I think all these students out here would probably agree with us too. So,
All right, next item is communications update 9B.
You just want to make sure everybody's aware, so Liz Robb has been working hard and putting together a weekly update that's now going out to everybody via email. So hopefully everybody's getting those updates. Those will continue. We're also looking at doing a monthly update electronically, and then we're finalizing a newsletter that could go out quarterly. We're finalizing some costs, so we'll have those costs down there, but again, we're trying to find ways to make sure we're communicating not just by social media and email, but I think some paper in people's hands to make sure we're reaching all community members is important.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Next item is Tipp Pride meeting review. Mr. Moran.
I had shared with everybody that I met with a group of about 5 or 6 donors, what was it, last week or a week and a half ago? I think it was early last week. And just where things are right now with Tipp Pride. Again, I think there was a lot of good intentions with when this was done. It's stalled and it's going nowhere right now. It's, I've said this before, I think it's kind of a cloud over the community. It's like, what's going on? It's just nothing's moving forward. At some point, I think the district needs to take over the responsibility of the fundraising piece. And we need to make sure we're supporting the donors that have given and recognizing and showing appreciation for those things that they've done. We have basically three priorities at the stadium facilities. And it's, I think they're all safety related. The home and visitor locker rooms are a priority. And to me, putting cement around so people can walk safely up into the bathrooms, to the bleachers even. I've seen parents and pushing strollers, they can barely get through, getting through there to get their kids onto the handicap ramp. I think that is a hindrance for anybody to use that ramp because they have to go through all gravel for the most part to get there. Get up, get to the restrooms and get to the concession stands. There's a little bit of a hill there that continues to wash out at times. So there are things that to me are safety issues that we gotta prioritize things. Those are 3 things that we need to prioritize and see if there's a way we can take control of that. So right now, I'm gonna be reaching out to the other donors or creating a plan on how or what might it look like for the district to take over and how that could happen. It's not gonna be quick and it's not gonna be easy, but right now things aren't going anywhere. And there's a lot of, I'd say, finger I don't know, finger pointing, but it's just a black cloud going on, and it's our it's our facility for our kids. We have to do better than what we're doing right now.
Anybody? Go ahead,
So
Mrs.
I know
Jones.
this is an ongoing discussion, but, with the donors and stuff like that, but long-term, are we looking at adding this to a bond, or, you know what I mean, like levy in the future, so that way we can finish it out, because at some point it has to get done, like it can't just keep,
That's not, yeah, I don't, that's not something that's been brought up or talked about. I mean, it obviously could be, but I don't know if that's, that wasn't the initial point of doing this. It was supposed to be done with all fundraising.
right,
Now, if that's changed, then it's changed, then we need to reevaluate it and make sure we're communicating that to everybody. But as of right now, I'm going on under the same assumption that it's a fundraising piece still at this time.
okay.
Anyone else? Thank you for the update, Mr. Moran. Next item is the Stadium Memorial. Mr. Moran?
You've heard the students here about their wishes, and again, this process was, I think, again, not anybody's, everything was done with good intentions. It got let down, I think, with communication not coming to the board like it should have. And that's where it's at right now.
Mr. Maines?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement. I'd like to mention a couple of things. First, the memorial plaque in the stone was the idea of, and completely funded by the senior football players, as they mentioned earlier today. And when one of the parents of the students contacted the board office about the memorial, she was told by the staff member that it shouldn't be a problem, but they would need to get permission from the city. So she did. She contacted Mr. Eggleston, who's our city manager, and when he saw the plaque, he thought it was really nice, and he gave them verbal permission. There was never any indication from anyone at the board office when they contacted the board that this would require board approval, so they just didn't know. This was not a project of the Tipp City Exempt Village Schools, nor was it a project of the Tipp Athletic Boosters. I'd also like to point out that due to the thoughtfulness and efforts of the Robbins family, they raised $31,298 for the Carson Robbins Legacy Fund. Of that amount, they asked the athletic department to use $26,816 to purchase and install the student bleacher section. The balance was to be used for whatever the athletic department wanted to use it for. Given the fact that some people were vehemently against using public funds for the bleacher project, I think this was an incredible project. And I hardly see a memorial stone with Carson's name on it as a major issue. In fact, if you read our board policy, which I know all of us have, it states the following. From time to time, the Board of Education may wish to commemorate a school or district facility by means of a plaque or naming the facility after a person. Such commemorations should be reserved only for those individuals or entities who have made a significant contribution to the enhancement, education generally, or the district in particular, or for the well-being of the district, community, state, or nation. I think this was an incredible donation. I have a letter from Mr. Eric Mack, who's the Director of Municipal Services, stating that, and this is the exact quote, "The memorial rock and plaque located inside the stadium fencing is approved by the City of Tipp City in accordance with the stadium lease agreement." In fact, I want to say thank you to Eric. I want to thank the Tipp Athletic Boosters, the senior football students, and the parents who funded this project and the Carson Robbins Legacy Fund for all that you have done for our community. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the memorial plaque and stone at the entrance of the field where the players all enter the stadium.
Thank you, Mr. Maines. Mr. Raines, are you good with holding your motion until everybody gets a
Sure.
turn? Alright, Mrs. Drum?
I echo your sentiments as well, Mr. Maines. Thank you, Jackson, for speaking. I think this is an opportunity for us as adults to kind of take a moment and step back and look at things. Kids are gonna deal with things in different ways. And I think you hit the nail on the head that not every kid's gonna deal with it the same. And I think that seeing those boys at, like Meet the Team when they were down there and kind of congregating at the Rock and kind of talking before, was kind of a little bit heartbreaking too to watch. I don't have a lot of good words for this, so I'm just gonna stop there, but I echo your sentiments.
Thank you, Mrs. Drum. What you guys did was incredible, and it was definitely a worthy cause. The impact of this young man's passing, Mr. Robbins' passing, is just tragic. And Carson obviously left an imprint on this community and brought us together in a way we haven't been together in a long, long time. I think that's worth what you boys have done. And you know, that being said, there's certain channels and formal channels that have to be followed. I know that you guys tried to do that. Unfortunately, we have so many policies, sometimes people don't know what policies apply, they don't know how they're supposed to apply. And one of the biggest things we've had a problem with in our district is not following policies, which has caused a lot of problems. But now you're here, you're in front of the board, and when I read that policy, my interpretation of it is that it applies to naming a school or the facility itself, not a memorial within a facility. Here also, we're talking about a stadium that we're leasing. It's still in our control, it's still our facility, but we're not naming the facility so much as placing a memorial for Carson's memory so we don't forget him. And so I fully support what Mr. Maines and Mrs. Drum have said. I want to thank all of you, the Robbins family, for what you've done for our community. You brought us together in a way we haven't been together in a long, long time. And so I would fully support a motion by Mr. Maines. So Mr. Maines, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion
Alright.
to approve the memorial plaque in stone at the entrance of the field where the players enter the stadium.
I would like to second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Maines is to approve the memorial plaque to be placed at the entrance of the stadium,
Yes, at the entrance of the field
entrance of the field.
where the players all enter the stadium.
Got it? Give me a moment.
So the present motion before the board has been made by Mr. Maines is to approve the memorial and it be placed at the entrance of the field where the players enter the stadium. It was made by Mr. Maines, the second by Mrs. Drum. Is there any additional discussion while Mr. Stevens gets the vote ready?
Thanks to all you students for coming tonight.
Yeah, thanks, boys.
Great job, guys. Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Stevens.
And refresh. Just to confirm, Simon, I have approved the memorial plaque in stone at the entrance of the field where the players all enter the stadium.
That's correct.
First by Mr. Maines, seconded by Mrs. Drum. We are good to go.
All right, Mr. Stevens, please call the vote.
Mr. Maines,
Yes,
Mrs. Drum,
Yes.
Mr. Patry.
Yes, motion passes. Gentlemen, if you wish to be excused, you don't have to watch paint dry some more. You're welcome to go. If you want to keep hanging out, you're more than welcome as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Somebody's gotta help him. There you go.
Guys, just leave the chairs there, thanks though, just leave the chairs there.
Put in the bed.
If it's already full, I'm gonna get on the wall, fix it. Perfect, thank you.
Got it. Had it on the fly, baby.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is long-term sub pay. Mr. Moran?
I had mentioned this in regards to our long-term subs and looking at what they're expected to do for a long-term position in the length of 60 days. Where they're essentially taking over for a teacher. It's a lot different in my opinion than a one day here, one day there. The planning, the communication, those things that are expected of them. And I just, I wanted to bring that forward to see, is there openness or willingness to, let's look at it, what that is. I think we can look more into that, but I think it's worth looking into. Again, subs aren't easy to find, and committing to this might be a way to keep some subs that we really are, with high quality here. Because teaching a class is, especially more, I'd say at the secondary level, is a whole lot more content knowledge that we need from these staff members. But doing third grade, second grade, it's with 20, 25 kids is not any easier either when you're all they know. And you're responsible for their learning too for an extended period of time. So what are people's thoughts on that?
I know we had, if it's all right, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had we'd begun compiling, I think Dr. Totalhoff was compiling, a sub, like vacancies, break them down, and all that, to see what we had done, because I think we had taken some partial steps to try to improve that and to see if that was gonna help out with anything. Obviously, if it's not sufficient, we need to do more. I know that we're not necessarily the most competitive, and people are gonna go where it's gonna be more competitive, and we need to get kids the teachers that they need to excel. And so if that wasn't sufficient, obviously we need to look at that again, and I'm open to your suggestions, Mr. Moran, as to what you think we need.
Our current policy is 60 days and then they get teacher pay, correct?
Step 0,
Right, in the grant thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
which is essentially 3 months,
yes, so,
roughly.
yes, when I was a long-term sub, it felt like forever before, I got that pay, but I was still doing all the work of a teacher every day. So, for me, I think 30 days, something, if we wanna look at something, I'm totally on board for it. Cause I know how hard the job is when you're taking over a classroom, between the behavior management, figuring out what the logistics are in your classroom, learning the students, creating groups, creating lesson plans, things like that, because after the first couple days, you're in charge based on whatever the teacher's left for you to do. And there's a lot of blanks to fill in between, so it is a lot of work. So I would definitely be open to looking at this more and figuring out what our options are on it.
Schmitz?
I would agree. 30 days seems, a lot in the first place. When they have to do that right out of the chute. So I think it's a good thing to look into.
And then I have a question also. So when we're looking at long-term sub, is this like being hired right away as a long-term sub? Or is this you've been in the classroom for like a week and then you find out it's a long-term sub position? Or are we doing this based on whatever the situation is?
I would say this summer has been a rash of some things that have come up for a long-term sub that we're struggling with when it couple areas. So, I think most of the time it's known. But I'm sure there's times where something happens and then updates happen and then it goes longer because of leaves, medical leaves or things like that. That's when, unfortunately, if something like that would happen to a staff member, that'd be unfortunate, but we'd still have to deal with it. So it'd be putting things in place for any of those situations, that would give us flexibility to address those.
So would we need to look at two different options then as well, like?
No, I think if you said, if we were doing a long-term position in the same classroom for X amount of days, it would go to this. So
Okay.
it could start off as, hey, we need you for 2 weeks, and then this person, God forbid anything would happen to somebody, but they get in an accident, well, I gotta find out what happens, and then, well, now I gotta get surgery, now I'm gonna be off, and it's like,
Right.
okay, well, if they started, I don't wanna penalize them for that, I wanna incentivize them to stay with us to do that. So I think there's ways of doing it with a number or a graduated pay scale, but we can figure that out in HR. I just wanted to, again, I see that a long-term sub is a whole lot different than a daily sub. A long-term sub for one position. I know we have subs that may be here all the time, but rotating different classrooms, that's not the same as if somebody's there committed on a long-term basis.
Thank you.
Yep.
Look forward to your
Yeah.
proposal. Next item is 10A, citizen comments. Mr. Jordan, Mr. Larry Jordan still here?
He spoke with B during the executive session, and he may have had all of his questions answered.
Wonderful,
Good,
all right.
good job, Dave.
Ms. Bone?
Good job.
Maybe. He could have walked away very disturbed at me. I don't know.
Hi,
Ms. Bone, hi, welcome.
Kathy Bone, 890 Michaels Road. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Tipp Pride. I didn't bring any notes tonight, my notes, but nothing that I've typed up. I am glad that Mr. Moran took the time to at least check out with the donors a few things going on. I think from the get-go, I've said that the Tipp Pride ship was sinking from the day it set sail. I didn't have any confidence that they would do what they said they would do, and they certainly haven't. And I actually think that ship has totally sunk. Mr. George left the position in December as vice president, and Michelle, who is the president, is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at her new job. So and their golf outing that they put up in February has gone nowhere. So I don't believe that they are even doing anything, period, other than collecting the donor money that they are collecting to pay past bills. And most of the money spent at the stadium has come from those donors plus the city and the taxpayers through the school. I have all those figures, I've sat down, I've gone through them, and Tipp Pride is just, I don't know. I have nothing good to say about Tipp Pride. I think things do need to be reevaluated, as Mr. Moran said. The donors did give, and they need to be recognized for that. There are also a lot of donors that I have listed that the school, as far as I know, does not have any contracts for. So there's only, I think, 15, maybe about 15 contracts the school has. There's a lot more donors out there that gave money, sufficient amounts of money, that I believe were probably promised things, whether it was premium seating, whether it was advertising, whatever it was. So I think there's more donors out there that need to be gotten hold of and figured out. You know, we don't want to make them any madder than they may already be, because Tipp Pride did not come through with this project. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I've been following them for years, and I've not liked what I've seen the whole way through. I think it was dirty dealings from the beginning. I think if we would have put this at the school, these boys that were here tonight would have been playing at the school would have been running in and out of those locker rooms to change into their uniforms and doing everything else, but because of city dealings and backdoor dealings and whatever you have, we are now faced with the mess we have down at the city park stadium. All I can say is to those donors out there, they do need to be recognized, they do need their things fulfilled, their promises. And I know it's gonna be at the taxpayers' expense, so I just tread lightly on that part because you guys are asking for another levy coming up in November. Then you're gonna turn around and ask for a building levy. So I think we need to especially reevaluate, do we want to finish this stadium with the plans we have? Or do we need to downsize it, or what do we need to do? Because I don't know that everybody's gonna open their wallets and pass these levies when they find out that we have to finish the stadium. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Bone. Next item is 11A, list of future board agenda suggestions. Is there anything to add?
We may need, I apologize if I'm stepping out of order, we may need to add something on private sale of the tiny home that did not sell at public auction back in May. Working with Mr. Kitchen on that.
Are we gonna add that today or at next meeting?
To be spoken on now, or what do you mean, Simon? I apologize.
I think we need to add it to the September 5th.
Yes, if we could add that to the September 5th agenda. I'm checking with Mr. Kitchen to see if he has a private donor, but I believe what we need to do is try to determine a set value of what we're willing to accept as the lowest offer. Maybe we can't put that out loud, or say that out loud, but I'll figure out what we need to do. But we do have, it has been done in the past, and
If it needs to be placed on the agenda, you know, Mr. Moran and you obviously guys talk, and if you guys both agree, it would be put on the proposed agenda that I review, and then it would be in front of the board for their approval. That, I don't wanna speak for the board, but that procedurally would make sense unless you're needing it today.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
We've waited this long, it's a few more weeks.
All right, next item is upcoming meetings. The next work session meeting will take place on September 5th, 2023, at the Board of Education meeting at 5 p.m. The next regular board meeting will take place on September 25th at the Board of Education meeting beginning at 6 p.m. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just wanna mention a couple things, if you don't mind. One, I think we had a good first day of school for 6th through 12th graders. They started off, today, and I think a lot of them just got back in the swing of things, so hopefully everybody experienced that. I saw a lot of smiling faces, students and staff, and again, I thought it was a good day, good start to the new year. We'll get the K-5 kids in starting Thursday into the buildings for their first day. And then just one thing on the our board, I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but on the Board of Education, on the policy side, we did add that piece on there, the tab for contents, which I think helps, can help people search for stuff. So it's a good step, so thanks, Mr. Core, for recommending that, and I think we got it up and working, so. Other than that, day one in the books.
Thank you, Mr. Moran, and thank you, Mr. Stevens, and everybody who joined us today. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I know.
Motion by Mrs. Drum, or, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right, got it right.
I'll second.
And second by Mr. Maines. I should abstain from confidence. Alright, Mr. Stevens, please call the vote.
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes, motion passes. We are now adjourned. Time is 7:43 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Put her in my contact.